Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Keegan. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit the subscribe button and put your opinions down there in the comment section. Marilyn Manson. Born Villain. Marilyn Manson, American rock band formed back in 1989 named after their eponymous lead singer, Marilyn Manson, also known as Brian Warner. Shocking the world and Christian mothers alike, it came as no surprise that Marilyn Manson were one of the most controversial and iconic rock bands today and even back then as well. Platinum records, a cult following, protests, bans, and even being blamed directly for Columbine, it's safe to say Marilyn Manson experienced a fair share of success, but also defamation, which really reflected in their music. In fact, this viewer suggestion is their 8th studio album released in 2012, following the fairly disappointing 2009 album The High End of Low. Manson himself mentioned that this album was meant to be a comeback for the band, which is fantastic because at that point in their career, their last 2 albums have been fairly mediocre and disappointing. And I can safely say that this album is absolutely the best album probably since Gold Nature Grotesque, maybe even Hollywood. Let's start this review up with the only single, No Reflection, which opens up with this pounding synth drum and very rough guitar. Sonically, the song is very catchy, very groovy, not as aggressive as I would enjoy it to be, but it's still got this gritty texture to it, along with Manson's vocals that are fairly present on this album. It's perfectly on this line between eerie and pretty corny. Definitely a memorable song from this album. And now for the rest of the songs. Hey Cruel World, the opener, is extremely deceiving as it starts with this very mellow, skittering sound, and then sweeps you right off your feet with this kick-ass guitar riff and Manson's screaming delivery. As soon as the first chorus comes around, the injection of just hardcore, angry metal just hits me in the face like a ton of bricks. Fantastic opener, and immediately proves that Manson has in fact found his style again. Pistol Whip takes quite a while to even get going, but when it does, it's clear on first listen that this is an extremely minimalistic song, featuring just a heavy, sometimes scratchy bass line and a simple drum rhythm. Also, Manson's vocals are fairly breathy, and his lyrics are fairly simple and repetitive. This song just lacks that certain fire that fueled Manson's other songs, and was definitely present on the other few songs here, but this one's just a bit underwhelming. Overneath the Path of Misery begins with Manson reading a verse from Macbeth with this glitchy tone to his voice, which sounds awesome. I love it so much. Musically, this song just comes in guns blazing at the gate. The guitar is played in repeated intervals in the song, which just adds to the heaviness of the song. His vocal patterns are all over the place. I love his screeches on the chorus. Lyrically, it's not the best. He's still got some corny lyric habits continued from his last 2 albums, especially the line, "Why die when you can kill the father, dad is missing an E." The song just shifts up and down, never getting boring. It's exciting, it's engaging, and a great song. Slo-Mo-Tion is not the best song on this album. In fact, it's probably the worst. The main positive is probably the bass line, which is easily the most interesting part of the song. Manson's vocal and lyrics are fine, but my main gripe with the song is that it lacks a climax in the chorus. Almost like Manson does his scream on the verse, it's slightly off by a couple of seconds. The instrumental barely picks up. It almost feels like the same energy, which is lukewarm, is continued throughout the entire song, and just makes it boring for me, so I'll skip this one. Now, no way in hell would I ever skip The Gardener, which may be my favorite song on this album. Manson recites his lyrics like a monologue, but it still somehow manages to match the rhythm of the bass, which seems to be the main melody of the song. It's very engaging. And Manson explodes in the latter half of the chorus with these moody, torn vocals, which is a fantastic surprise for a worthy build-up. Overall, it's a beautiful song and almost poetic in a way. The Flowers of Evil takes quite a while to get started, but this one featuring another fantastic bass is the lead melody. Lyrically, the song is very similar to Pistol Whipped, where a lot of the lyrics are repeated a few times for some reason. Manson has this tinge of insanity to his voice, which only makes the repeated line of "your touch is so empty" just that extra bit eerie that it really needed. The chorus almost feels like it could be something straight out of a pop rock song, and it actually does use a fair amount of the synth. Manson's voice carries this song, and it makes it worthwhile for me. Children of Cain is the only ballad on this album, and it shows, with Manson's shouting, heart-wrenching vocals being one of the most emotional performances on this whole album. I don't think the synth work as well as they did on The Flowers of Evil. All the different noises flying everywhere don't really contribute that well to the tone of this song. Lyrically, it's this fairly deep and emotional song, essentially how everyone is a sinner, and people holding on to religion to mask that truth just can't face it. At 5 minutes and 17 seconds, it is a bit long, and I think the bridge could have been a little bit shorter or maybe even cut a chorus somewhere, but it's still a fine song. Disengaged features Manson's back with these vocals that we saw earlier on the album. This song sonically is a lot similar to Pistol Whipped, except the chorus on this song blows up a lot more, and the verses also don't feature a repeated lyric. In fact, this chorus may be one of my favorite choruses on the whole album. It's just so heavy and pounding, despite being a bit lyrically inept. This song is definitely one of my favorites on the album. Lay Down Your Goddamn Arms is the point on this album where it starts to slowly build back up. The middle of this album was fairly quiet, not bad, but it just lacked some energy, and now we're starting to slowly get that back. I didn't like this song on first listen, but I've definitely come around to it. This song just feels very angry, maybe because we have a lot more guitar this time around. The song is just so heavy, it makes me want to punch somebody. It's fueled with this attitude, and that chorus is infectious. I love this song as well. Murderers Are Getting Prettier every day on first listen was absolutely my favorite song, solely because of how metal sounding it was. It almost felt like something I would hear at a Slayer. But now I think I've kinda lost that same emotion that I had for the song. I mean, I think it's still awesome. Probably the hardest song the band has released since Hollywood. And in fact, it is very reminiscent of older Manson, which I really love. This is another song that just makes me want to be in a mosh pit. It's a fantastic song. The self-titled track, Born Villain, has this western feeling to it. Like, the guitar sounds like it was ripped straight out of a sheriff western movie, which actually really helps the tone of this song, making it a bit more haunting than it would have been otherwise. Lyrically, this song is simply about no matter how well you know somebody, you will never know what they grow up to do or accomplish, which I don't think it needed to be a nearly 5.5-minute long song that barely builds up to the slight spark to provoke. This one's a little bit underwhelming for me. Breaking the Same Old Ground is a fairly weird song musically. It opens up with this light, pleasant piano, something that would put a child to sleep, which made me think of, oh, this is gonna be a moody, intense, haunting song. But as soon as the chorus hits, this feels like a pop rock song through and through. And this was meant to be the closer of the standard album. Talk about underwhelming, along with boring. Probably one of my least favorites. And finally, You're So Vain, a cover of the Carly Simon song with Johnny Depp on guitar. I personally love Manson's covers, and this one's no exception. Manson has always thrown his signature style into all of these covers, and that stays true for this one as well. It feels way more passive-aggressive than the original, which I really enjoy. Overall, it's good. Not a song I would put as the closer per se, but it is what it is. Overall, this is definitely worthy of being labeled as a Manson comeback album. And even though Manson hasn't quite found his signature pen yet, the spare pencil he uses here is the best thing he's used in a few years. If you're turned off by some of the newer Manson albums, or you stop listening around Eat Me, Drink Me, please check this album out. This might open your eyes a little bit. I'm feeling about a 7.5 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.